Welcome to Audio Path, where we let you in on our experiences, insights, and real-life scenarios working in the music industry. I'm Trent, and I've been a studio owner and operator, a music venue owner and operator, and a musician.
And I'm John. I've been a mix engineer, mastering engineer, live sound technician.
And together, we've got 30 years of experience in the music industry.
Whether you're an artist, an engineer, or somebody who just really likes music, these stories are for you.
Come with us as we pull back the curtain of the music industry.
And let's take a walk down the audio path.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Audio Path podcast. I'm here with my co-host, John. I'm Trent Harrison. We're at Hourglass Studios, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming burnout, which is something that, a lot of industries or a lot of people deal with in various different ways, but we're going to kind of show some, tell some stories and maybe some anecdotes about how this has affected us in our journey in the music industry, and maybe like what to look out for, and how you can get past it if you're dealing with something like that. I feel like this episode is like maybe a little more of a social episode, which is cool because I know there's more than just the tech side to this, and we want to kind of share like what actually is going on with ourselves while we're doing these jobs.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
And I think if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you run the risk of hitting burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, and we'll get into the details, I've had some ebbs and flows, some moments of really feeling locked into a groove and really excited and really creative, and then the exact opposite as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, real quick, I guess, what is burnout? Burnout is just when you get to a point with whatever you're working on, or your year, your month, your whatever, your day even, that you just aren't into it. You're just not feeling it. Like you're kind of just having to go through the motions because that's what you're doing. It's your job, but you're not excited about it anymore, or, something's weighing on you that's kind of keeping you like at a distance from it, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So why don't we start with just, and we can kind of jump back and forth with like ways to overcome it, and then like times that we've experienced it, and just kind of give people a little bit of a mixed bag of things. So why don't you share, a time in your life, or, time in your career that you've experienced some burnout, John?
Perfect. Yeah, will do. I'm not really sure I can do this kind of linearly, but I'll share the first story that comes to my head. Probably the biggest moment of burnout I've had, which was, if you've been listening along, you know some of this story already, was coming out of COVID. Having to just work the number of hours I was working on the number of projects that I had going on. That was that period of 2 years where I had to do like over 125 like finished tracks.
Yeah.
Which is basically, a track a week and then some. And man, I got just super, super burned out on all of it. At first, it was exciting. I really liked what I was doing. It was new. It was fresh. I was, exploring different ways to make music that I'd never done before, etc. And it was a real high, career-wise and personally, even though it was in the middle of this weird time of COVID. It's still, it was really weird because it was fun and creative from a doing new things standpoint, but I also was having to do my job and work in church in a way that was totally different and was frankly pretty far removed from people. So whereas I was really, accustomed to, having a weekly rehearsal with a band and, having a weekly, 1 or 2 weekly worship sets or whatever, it all of a sudden was like, none of that.
Yeah.
And then everything shifted to, I'm just going to sit in a studio and I'm going to see these people like one-on-one when they come in for a tracking session, and that's pretty much like going to be it.
Right.
So I found, well, let me finish the story first. So I was doing all of this and I reached a point where I was so burnt out that I felt like, I mean, I had like entered into this like depressive stage. I had like, frankly, I look at some of the videos of that I made back then and like I lost a ton of weight. Like I
Oh.
was down like 30 pounds.
Wow.
I wasn't eating really because I was
Yeah.
just working all the time. I was pretty much living off of like I would drink 2 pots of coffee a day
Wow.
and sometimes like would skip food just because some of you may relate to this who are listening. When I'm in work mode, if I'm not careful, I just keep going and I don't stop. I get real fixated on stuff and get very tunnel visioned on the project at hand. And I literally will just forget to eat. My wife
Yeah.
is really good about being like, "Did you eat today?"
What'd you have for lunch today?
Because sometimes, I mean, I've actually done a lot of work since that time in my life, personally, and have overcome a lot of that. It's not as big of an issue as it was back then, but that's what burnout looked like for me. I mean, I remember thinking I can barely. I mean, I would finish these projects. I'd grab like maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then I'd have to wake up and like hit the ground running again. And I just really I knew I was burned out when I could barely force myself to put my feet on the ground in the morning.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm so tired. I used to love this.
Yeah.
I just really don't anymore. I'm just producing the next project because I kind of have to. It didn't even feel creative anymore,
Yeah.
So I'll kind of push pause there because I want to hear some of your
Sure.
burnout stories, but, we can come back to how I got out of that and overcame it.
Absolutely.
But I think for now, let's just kind of live in the where what does burnout look like for you,
Right.
kind of side of things. So
Yeah.
Trent, you want to share
Totally.
some of your burnout?
Totally. How does it happen and all that for sure. So yeah, I guess I would be kind of similar in that like it'd be hard for me to kind of go in a linear way, but I feel like it's probably started in maybe after I was like 5 years in or something like that. And it had been full time for 3 years at that point. And it's very similar to the way you described. I mean, I didn't quite have the like loss of appetite or anything like that, but there were definitely 12 to 14 hour days where you're just going from the moment you wake up to way beyond when you maybe even should have already been in bed, right? And
Oh, yeah.
and you just got to, because it can happen in a couple different ways. And these are maybe kind of, I'm going to sprinkle in some like things to look out for kind of thing, but like, having too many projects back to back to back can get you there. And then if one of those projects has some sort of scheduling issue or something comes up or an addition or something like that, then you need to squeeze that in order to either meet the deadline or even if you're not on a deadline, to get it done in a reasonable amount of time before the next project starts, right? Because then once you get into that next one, you're not going to have time to do the one you're supposed to have already finished by now, right? And I think that's a way that it kind of snowballs in this industry. At least that's the way I've experienced it a lot. And it takes me to a place to where like I don't feel excited to go to the studio or to do the gig or do anything, because I've just overdone it, right? And like I think it can kind of come from a couple different places, to where like maybe you're getting, even if you're not in like a super intense grind, like those 12, 14-hour days, like sometimes those are multiple back to back because that's just what it demands, right? Even if you're not completely in that and you're just more in like a normal amount of time per day, but it's just a repetitive kind of same thing, do this project, over and over, the cycle, right? The cycle. I think you can find yourself, and I know I've found myself in those places before, where I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not excited about this at all. And this is supposed to be fun, right? The whole anecdote, right? Find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm, slaving away at it, which is extreme, but it's just a mental thing, and that's just kind of where you go, like you dreading it a little bit in order to just you're just getting through it kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's tough. And I think there's another, I want to touch on this, and maybe it'll probably find its way back around in some of the other like solutions or things to look out for. But like the whole hustle culture thing that was prevalent. I mean, it's still certainly going on now, but like I feel like it really got fired up like, 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe. And where it was like the cool thing to do was to be exhausted because you're working all the time. And it's like, how many hours did you work? It's like that. How is that the great thing, right? And I mean, there's some merit in it because productivity is a good thing, right? But having to grind and hustle so strongly in order to get ahead or even be relevant at all is sad. I don't think it should be like that.
I don't either.
I think, I think it's important to be productive and to feel good, feel like you've done a good day's work, but I don't think that the work needs to be the only thing in the day and that's all that you're living for. Right? We don't, live to work. We work to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Or at least we should be.
We should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something to be aware of. Like that, I think it's fading a little bit. There's kind of an anti-hustle culture going on, like, or emerging, I've seen recently, which I'm all about that. I think that's great. Now, there's a difference between that and laziness.
Totally, yeah.
Right? So it's not, work 2 hours a day and then just whatever after that. Some days, sure. But like, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So.
I started kind of saying this phrase, again, I'm kind of skipping ahead to the end of the story, but, mentally, I think about it this way. Work hard when you're working, chill hard when you're chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I like that.
But you got to have both.
Gotta have both. Can't be lopsided like that. It's just
right.
not going to work out good. And
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's in some ways hard to describe, right? But it's just this like, you feel like you've hit the wall, but you have to keep going anyway, because you don't want it to all fall apart.
Right.
So then, like, when recognizing that is a hard thing too, like knowing whenever you're I like to say it's like you're in a rut, or like maybe you've hit a plateau. But it's the same thing. It's just a burnout moment that you're going too hard or you're just not, stimulating your creativity or your mind enough to enjoy it like you should be.
Yeah.
So.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it feels like it's probably happened at least 3 times that I can remember in my 15-plus year career of like an extended period that I'm just not as stoked as I should be about what I'm doing. And it usually comes, I feel like it usually comes through long experience, like multiple years of a lot of repetitiveness. Not anything wildly new or exciting. And it can be momentarily broken. Like definitely the projects that you're working on, I think, play a big factor into it all. If you've got a lot of great projects that you're super excited about, that's like right up your alley, then, you're going to be invigorated again, right? And it's going to be nice. But they can't all be like that, right?
Right.
I mean, we were talking about this earlier this morning. It's like, it's rare that every project on your plate is like 100% your jam.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't accept them if they were just not your jam at all. So, don't get me wrong on that. Like, you shouldn't be taking projects that you just don't like at all, because that's not going to work out good for anybody. But it's a sliding scale. It can't be like 100% on
Mm-hmm.
every one.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So Trent, how have you overcome burnout historically in these 3 moments?
so I would say that the first time it happened was tougher to recognize because it's the first time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so thinking back, that was also a long time ago. So let me see if I can think how that ended up flipping back around. I think like time off and rest is usually the solution for all of the times that it's happened for me, is recognizing that I'm going too far, or that I'm just not excited, and taking a little step away from it for a little while in order to kind of reset and clear my mind, and then it builds the excitement back up and you can get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? Well, it could be a little vacation somewhere. Take a little trip, kind of get out of your area, get out of your scene, and do something completely unrelated to music whatsoever, right? Go camping, whatever, go to the beach, wherever you live, whatever you like to do. I think that helps. Like, is that enough? Sometimes not. And I mean, how long can you do that, right? You can't just like take a month-long vacation, right? So you got to kind of, it helps like the second and like third time that happened. There was other factors that helped pull me out of it, but the rest is a common and reoccurring thing. Like taking a little step away from it helps a lot. And like, I think this can happen. This is another little kind of a cool story that I heard someone say at some point, was like, there's two lumberjacks, right?
Okay.
All right. So see if you can track with me here.
I got you.
Okay. And they both have the same axe, and they're in the woods, and they're both chopping wood to, create their pile of wood for the day. And the one guy is just going away, just chopping and chopping and chopping. And then about halfway through the day, the other guy leaves, and the one that stayed is like, well, where did he go? I'm going to get ahead here because I'm going to continue to chop my wood. And turns out the guy that left went home to sharpen his axe. And he took a break from the work. And when he came back, his axe was so much sharper that he was able to cut more wood by the end of the day.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to take time to sharpen your axe.
Yeah.
Is really what.
Dude, that's so good. I've never heard that.
Too. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. So, like, what does that mean? I mean, just a little bit of rest and, reflection can, like, make it to when you come back to it, you're just better than you were before.
Yeah.
So,
man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tuck that away in my files.
Yeah, it's a good
so
one.
Good, dude.
It's a good one. I try to remember. I'm like, man, like, and also, like, I don't know if you feel this way, like, maybe it's like a borderline workaholic mentality, but sometimes when I'm not like working, I feel a little guilty sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I should be doing something productive and I'm not. But I think about my axe and I'm like, wait, no. It's important. It'll make the work better because it'll be sharper when I get back.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's great. I would say on my side of things, just kind of continuing in that story. So I had reached this point where I was super burned out and realized that I had kind of worked myself into that position, like in the work I was doing. It started out, looking back on it, and I've done a ton of reflection on this period of my life. Looking back on it, it started out from this place of really having a scarcity mindset. Of like, oh, well, my church that I work at, which is my employer, has shut down. And how can I help and really make sure that I have a job still?
Yeah.
Fortunately, at the beginning, I was like, well, this is great because I wanted to learn this stuff anyway. Like, let's just, this is a perfect melding of like passion and opportunity, essentially. But I created this unsustainable pace, essentially, from the get-go, which created more and more expectation of myself and my employer of me, to the point where I wound up, in an attempt to clear some of this burnout or start the process, having conversations with my workplace, wound up really not making much headroom there, and just had to get to a place where I'm like, I'm going to have to do something else for work. Like, I don't see a way out.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of a key. When you're in burnout, you have to stop.
Yeah. You're not going to work through it.
No.
It doesn't really happen.
You have to take a break. And sometimes taking a break is literally taking a break.
Yep.
Sometimes it's changing course and just doing something different.
Yeah.
So I reached the point where I was like, I've got to do something else for a job. And fortunately, at the same time, my friend Jared was looking for a new production director for the church he worked at. And I really felt like, okay, this is a good transition. I already know, I've been doing the production director role for such a long time, even though I was a worship pastor at the same time. I'm just going to transition into this. Did that for like 1.5 to 2 years and wound up in the same place, frankly. Like, wound up in the same spot of burnout. But it's interesting looking at my story, and this is, I'll share a lot of kind of my personal life here. I wound up there very quickly because I really didn't give myself a break.
Yeah.
I was doing something different, and so I was excited again, and it felt fresh and new and all this kind of stuff, but I really did not ever fully pause and just stop. I mean, I had 2 days between finishing the job at First Baptist and starting at this other church.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight is like totally crazy. I can't believe I did that.
Right.
So I wound up, though, my body, like my nervous system was like wrecked from not recovering from this. And for the first time in my life, I started like having panic or anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
Couldn't really figure out what was going on, but I did wind up going to the doctor, and he was like, the best thing you can do is like go to therapy. And I was in therapy for about 1.5 years, and it was awesome because I was able to talk through my tendencies of why I even got into burnout in the first place.
How'd you get there, right?
Yeah, and how to, change things in my life, create new habits and new rituals, or whatever you want to call them, to make sure I don't get there again. So I'm really passionate about this topic because I'm a hard worker. You are too. I think to be in this industry, you've got to have a great work ethic.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with also having a great way of pumping the brakes and not working?
Yeah.
And for me, it's really just looking at it as divided time. Am I working? Cool, I'm going to work really, really hard. Am I not working? Cool, I'm going to not work really, really hard.
Right. Yeah.
The
kind of work hard, play hard mentality, however that is for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's been quite the path, if you will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Coming out of it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, man. That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think kind of like toting on that a little bit, like working really hard while you're doing it, like maximizing your time that you're at or that you are working, wherever that is important, because it'll help you feel like it's okay to take the other time off whenever and enjoy that time because you've done it well, right? And like some things that I've like started to, a couple years ago, started to like try to consciously keep in mind. I'm not always able to do it, but quality over quantity, because I think that like, and we've probably touched on this in other episodes as well, but like the number of projects that you have they're all like, all right, the number that you have versus the size that you have. That's really what we're going for. So like one big project versus 3 little projects, right? The one big project, like, even though the quantity of maybe the number of songs or whatever, or a video shoot or whatever is more, the attention that it needs with the people involved and everything and the time is probably going to be less than the 3 little projects because of the 3 different parties involved and the amount of like administrative time and just figuring it out and, the back and forth. Even though they're only talking about maybe one song versus 10 or something like that, it can be just as demanding or more demanding than the one big project.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I've seen. Sometimes the smaller ones take up more of your time than the big one does. And so keeping that in mind, like when you have a big one going and another little one comes along, I'm very bad about this, but I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that one and
I could take that on.
I could squeak that one in, like, sure. And I think it comes from a good place, at least I think it does for me. Like, I hate saying no to people, and I hate basically just turning them down. And so I want to help them with what they're trying to do, but sometimes it's at my own expense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say yes and I'll do it, and then I'm overwhelmed.
Yep.
Right.
I've been there.
And those overwhelming moments, if you stack too many of those together, you'll find yourself in a burnt out moment.
Completely.
And so be aware of that. Like, it's better to focus on, a few smaller projects and make them the best quality that they can be instead of taking on as many as you can. And you're going to try to do your best, but inevitably something's probably going to suffer somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you're just so divided in your mental space.
Yeah.
So another way I deal with, trying to focus a little bit more on quality over quantity or just not taking on too much, right, is it's okay to pass from time to time. You don't have to be yes to everything kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's easier said than done in a lot of situations, but it's like no is an acceptable answer, right?
Yep.
And I think it's healthy to do that, and it'll keep you to where you don't spend all of your mental energy and find yourself in a time of burnout or exhaustion or overwhelm or any of that. And then even like on your day, like your to-do list for the day, like that's where it starts, right? It's each day at a time. And so try not to, even though you may have like this master, like I have like a master to-do list of all these things that I need to do, but like only grab like 5 of them or whatever is like comfortable enough to, and move that to a separate list so you don't look at the crazy list, because that'll make you feel like, oh, I got to get that done, right? Move it to a separate list and you can check off that smaller amount, and you'll have a good feeling of achievement, and it won't like overwhelm you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you need to make your to-do list achievable, or else a lot of people will be so it's too much anxiety about the list that they just don't do any of it.
Right.
And or they do one thing and they're like, I can't do anymore.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. And like I think we've all kind of been there in some way or shape or form. And so separating that out, I think is a good way to like prevent some of that.
Yeah. Totally. I think another thing that's helpful is to incorporate pruning moments or pruning seasons into your workflow. What I mean by that is, if you're unfamiliar with that term, when you prune a tree, what you're doing is you're getting rid of parts of the tree that are stealing nutrients away from the rest of the tree.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you, and really I think we as human beings, we very much so need that too.
Yeah.
We need to look at our lives. You need to set time aside to look at your life and be like, what am I, especially with ongoing projects, what am I doing right now, or what am I a part of that I really feel like it's not really giving me life and it's taking energy that I feel like I want to put into other things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, that's not just going to happen though, because it's kind of unnatural for us to just kind of, like look at our life and be like, you know, what do I want to get rid of? So a friend of mine told me this pretty recently, and I'm like, dude, that's a great way to look at it. He's a creative guy, real entrepreneur, and he always has a lot of different projects going on at the same time. But he does this, and I didn't realize it. He said, every January, I will take the first 2 weeks of the year, and I will assess every project that I'm working on, every single one.
Nice.
Especially ongoing projects. And I just make some real clean and clear decisions. Do I want to keep putting energy into this project, or do I need to be done with it? And he's like, the beginning of the year is a great time to do that.
It is.
Because, if you get into a year and you've been working on a project, it's hard to be like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore.
Right.
But there's always a little bit of a lull, like after the Christmas season, New Year's, where you're already kind of like not really doing much typically.
Right.
So great time to just do that.
It's perfect. I do something similar in the beginning of the year as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. And it kind of comes back to one earlier episode that we talked about the 80-20 rule, right? Where, you're taking a bird's eye view at everything you've got going on, and you're probably noticing that like 80% of the output comes from only 20% of the projects.
Yeah.
Basically. So what is that saying? So like 80% of the revenue, 80% of the final products that are the best come from only 20% of the projects that you're in. And then the reverse is true as well. And so having a pruning moment like that is exactly what that is picking out the 80%, dwindling that down to try to be left with the cream of the crop 20% part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very important for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so maybe we will kind of start to close with this. What do you think is a good place to start if you feel like you're living in burnout and you don't know what to do next? Maybe we can kind of give our listeners a little bit of insight with like, what's the first step of overcoming the burnout?
Yes.
Totally.
I would say the first most necessary step is realizing that you're in a rut or you're in a burnout moment.
Yeah.
Right. Which is easier said than done, especially if you're being hit for the first time with it. I know it was hard on me to even figure out what was going on. But once it happens to you once, you can see this, you can prevent it from happening in some ways. Sometimes it's not always just preventable. It just happens over time, right? But, you can, once it's going on, you can figure out ways to pull yourself out of it. So what do you think is once you know that you're there, what's a way that you use to kind of get yourself out?
The first thing I do at this point is I tell somebody I'm close to that it's happening.
Yeah.
Because that automatically builds in some accountability and builds in some kind of like, I'm going to check in on you or whatever. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're not reaching the point that I kind of forced myself into after like, I guess, a culmination of 4 years of really just grinding through burnout, where, your body starts reacting. But that's part of why I do that. I mean, the first person I tell typically is my wife. I'm like, I'm just really burned out. Like, I'm tired. I love doing that with her because then we can have a conversation about, okay, like what things are sucking energy, from you, and what things are giving you life. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're in it, but when you take the step of talking to somebody about it, it could be your best friend, it could be, somebody else that you work with, whatever it is. That external vantage point can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the people you're close to they know that you're in it before you do.
They do. They probably have already seen it, and they're just kind of waiting for you to get to the moment that you're like, oh, yeah, something's not right.
Yeah, something's not right here.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a like once you recognize, I think that's really the first step is go talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about it. There are a lot of different steps after that you can take depending on what it looks like for you, but I think that's probably a pretty universal first step.
Yeah.
Is doesn't really matter who it is, just find somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm really struggling right now."
Right. And maybe they can help you figure out the next steps to get out of it, or
That's right.
what to drop or how to navigate it.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
So yeah, I would say after that, like, at least for me, taking a little step back, take a little break. Take, whether that's, like I said earlier, whether that's like a little vacation, or even if it's just like finding whenever it's possible. I mean, I know you know this, but for me, like, things are planned out pretty far ahead of time.
Same, yeah.
And so it's hard to find a break. Like, I mean, I'm usually booked out for a couple of months. So finding a gap to be able to reset, you got to build that in.
You do.
Ahead of time.
Because no one is going to come to you.
Yeah.
So like a client will come to you and be like, "Hey, I have this project, I want to work on it." There isn't a client in the world that's going to come to you and be like, "Hey, I want you to take a break."
Yeah.
You're
right. Exactly. That's not going to
You
happen.
have to be the one. And I don't want to downplay that. I mean, it's really difficult.
It is.
To say no to something, or to, because, some of you may be listening to this and you may be like, "Yeah, well, that's all well and good, but like, it's not realistic. I have to."
Yeah.
And that's part of the burnout mentality is you have to keep grinding. You have to keep going.
You have to keep working.
And the only person who's going to make a change is you.
Yes.
You're the only one who will give yourself a break.
Exactly.
And it's hard to look at maybe an employer or whoever else and say, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a multitude of reasons. But sometimes it's the very best thing that you can do.
Absolutely.
And if your employer, comes back to you and is like, "Well, you have to keep going," frankly, maybe that's a sign that you shouldn't work for them anymore.
Yeah, maybe they don't care that much about you. They just want, productivity to be happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be meeting the quota or whatever. And, and that's not a good sign.
No.
For sure.
No, not at all. But, it comes down to no one's going to force you to make the choices that you need to make. You're going to have to make them.
Yeah. So try to think about this. Like, I know for a lot of people listening, and for John and myself as well, like, the pay, the revenue, the income, the money is a factor, right? And if you're in, like, especially in our fields, like, we're not salaried, right? If we're not putting in hours, then we're not getting dollars. I mean, maybe there's some stuff on the royalty side that happens passively in the background, but big chunks of our income come from physically being there and doing the work, right? And that's a hard thing to break off, knowing that you might need a break or want a break, but the money will stop coming in, and then how do the bills get paid and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that comes back to, like we mentioned, we had, a couple episodes on, like, the money side of things and, like, business setups and stuff. Like, build in a savings. Like, do whatever you can to prioritize a savings, because when you hit a moment like this in a phase of your career where you're feeling burnt out and you need a break, if you have that savings, you can live off of that and take a step back and not worry about missing the income, and actually recharge yourself to get through that burnout phase and then get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the savings should be for, amongst other things, right? Saving up for gear or whatever. But it's for those moments that you can continue you pull from that instead of income, and you maintain your lifestyle for, if you need a couple weeks off, you can do that because you've got that as like a cushion blanket. And so another, like, anecdote to that, like, keep in mind, longevity is more important than productivity. Being productive, doing what you need to do, having a longer career is more important than being more productive in a shorter period of time to produce more things quicker. You want this whole thing that the podcast that we're doing here, Audio Path, are one of our main, theses is a career in the industry. And that is over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just like started doing this for a year or two, got burnt out with it, moving on. Like, we're trying to help people in their long journey.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you can't cram it all in. It's a day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and this is a skill. What we're talking about.
Yeah.
Be like learning how to be healthy physically and mentally and that's really what we're talking about, is a complete skill that if you're going to have a career in this field, you've got to work on that skill. You've got to develop that skill. And I really think it's just how it should go in most areas of life. Most people, need to learn this skill. I mean, I spent the better part of 30 years without it, to be honest with you. And then kind of had this everything came crashing down moment and had to build it and had to grow it. And I think that's just really, excuse me, I think that's really just kind of my key takeaway is learn how to be healthy.
Yeah.
Learn yourself, know who you are, know what makes you tick, know your signs when you're like, hey, I've said yes to too many projects or whatever. Know how to back out of that and know how to do it, graciously, and do it in a way that isn't going to just further collapse on
Right.
you.
And then that'll stress you out even more.
Exactly.
And it'll just be a downward spiral. But yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, there are ways to, if you've already committed, but the project hasn't started yet, there are ways, and even if it has started, there still are ways to reel it back a little bit, Go to the project that you probably shouldn't have taken on and say, hey, I've got a whole lot more going on than I realized. Would it be possible to push this out a month? And, I understand if it's not, and I can give you some other references to help you, if you need to do it now. But I would say 7 out of 10 times, they're probably going to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as it's not too far out, they'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
And it'll make a big difference in your life.
Yeah.
So
completely, man. And it's just, ideally you'll learn to recognize, hey, when somebody asks you for a job, looking at your schedule ahead of time and be like, I'm a little too busy, and you'll just say no on the front end.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just simply have to go to somebody and be like, hey, I am just absolutely booked up and thought I had time for this right now, but I don't. Here's what I can offer you. Exactly what you were just saying, whether it's a referral or later, later on the calendar.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I think most people most people that I've had to do that with today, they understand it and they respect it.
They do.
I think, fortunately, we're living in a day and age where people understand boundaries and they recognize when you are trying to put a boundary in yourself.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, you'll get a better finished product. You'll get a better version of me too. This will be a win-win for all of us. So if you can, let's just do this at a different time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's really good.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, John? Do you think we've
covered
it?
burnout.
I think we've covered the bases.
Yeah.
Good.
I also want to say, if you are experiencing burnout right now and you feel like you don't have somebody you can talk to about it, shoot us an email.
Please.
We've lived there. I mean, you've heard some of the stories here, but just shoot us an email, audiopathpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to connect with you, kind of hear where you're at, help you if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to offer any type of, there's more details that we haven't gone into on the podcast of how we could, overcome these things and help each other out. So please reach out if you're experiencing that or know someone that's in our field that you are seeing some signs for them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So,
cool. Well, Trent, what are you working on this week, man?
Yeah, let's see where we are with that. So I've been working with Jim Ellis and singer-songwriter from Topsail Beach area. We're pretty much wrapped up on his project, and he's starting to release his songs via the kind of waterfall method that we talked about a couple episodes back, which is basically like one song a month to kind of prolong the release of the album and just give people, a little bit at a time instead of just dumping it all out there at one time. And he seems to be doing pretty well with it. He's getting good feedback, and it's being very well received. So
Sweet.
I'm happy to be doing that with him, and that it's going well for him. Beyond that, I'm working with a guy named Spencer Carlson. He's kind of got this like Gary Clark Jr. vibe. It's like
Sweet.
rock kind of trio thing that he's got going on, and he's very good. I'm really into the music, and we're having a good time with it. So
Killer.
I'm stoked on that one.
Awesome, dude. Very cool.
How about yourself?
Yeah. Well, here's kind of a crazy thing. So I actually no longer live in Wilmington.
Yeah.
So
surprise.
Surprise. That's right. So as of this episode recording, I live in Asheville now.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's kind of cool. It's still it's still making music in a small town. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it gives us even another perspective.
That's right.
So,
yet another one. So
not bad.
So yeah, my wife and I moved there, and I took 3 weeks off of work.
Yeah.
Trying not to burn out.
Nice. There you go.
So frankly, I go back and forth. It's like, should we tell the listeners when we take time off? But I'm realizing in this conversation, we probably should.
Yeah, I think it's important for sure.
Yeah. So taking some time off.
We're taking some time off. I mean, I guess that kind of pulls back the curtain that we film more than one episode in a day.
It's true. We do.
And there are weeks in between our shoots.
Yes,
right?
but
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
we're making it work, right?
We are, man. We are.
Yeah.
And we may be filming a few episodes here and there from the Asheville area.
Yes, absolutely. So if you flip us on in the future and you don't see this space, you'll know we're probably in the mountains.
We're in the mountains.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
Cool. So yeah, that's it. Well, anything else you want to add there, Trent?
I don't know. There's one thing I guess I come back to sometimes that's like important to remember. It's like if you burn a candle from both ends, it burns out twice as fast. Right?
Yep.
So try not to do that. Try to just burn it from one end, and it's okay to snuff it out every once in a while and light it back again.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We'll leave it with that.
Cool.
There you go.
Well, hey, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify, follow us wherever you're listening to this right now so you don't miss another episode. We've really loved connecting with you all, and we're so looking forward to more of this.
That's right.
More. So, and if you have anything that you'd like to hear from us, just give us a comment, wherever you're listening or watching. Drop us an email. Again, it's audiopathpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We will cover pretty much any topic you give us. So if you want to hear about it, we will talk about it.
That's right.
Or we will find somebody to talk about it.
Yeah, which we might be doing that.
We might be doing that.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for listening. Until next time, steady the path.
Steady the path.